Elite Facts presents
10 shocking deaths on The Walking Dead. Warning, there's spoilers ahead.
10.
TDog. You guys remember TDog, right? Everyone liked him, even though he had next to no lines throughout his last 2 seasons on the show. Well, in the last season, he did get a few lines talking about how God has a plan and whatnot. Well, during an episode where the walkers retake the prison yard, in the process of closing the gate that's letting them in, T-Dog is bitten by a walker. Now, realizing that the walkers are too much to handle, the group splits up and scatters around the prison. T-Dog is given the task of taking care of Carol, who at this point in the show was still kind of a damsel in distress. When traveling through a cell block, they're ambushed by the undead. With T-Dog infected anyway, he decides to sacrifice himself in order to save Carol. You got to admit, for a character that wasn't given much to say or do, he went out with a heroic bang.
9.
The Governor. Philip Blake, otherwise known as the Governor, was a force to be reckoned with during seasons 3 and 4 of The Walking Dead. Whether he was killing other groups in order to steal their supplies or locking someone in a room with a dying person who will soon be turned into a walker, the Governor was the type of person that you best not mess with. While in the mid-season finale of Season 4, the Governor met his demise after leading his army in a blood-soaked war with Rick's group in a bid to claim the prison as his own. Michonne fatally stabbed him with her katana sword, and the Governor's love interest, Lily, sealed the deal with a gunshot to his head.
8.
Tyreese. No matter how you look at it, Tyreese went out like a champ. A fan favorite from the comics, Tyreese was a welcome presence when he joined Rick's group in Season 3. Unfortunately, as is the case with many of the show's characters, he ends up on the road to his eventual death after trying to help someone else. His death sequence has been widely praised by both fans and critics of the series, as it's been described as the most powerful one yet. It featured hallucinations involving many of the show's dead characters, and Tyreese defending himself from a walker by using his already bitten arm as a way to hold it off. His arm was amputated, providing just the slightest bit of hope that he would continue on, but unfortunately Tyreese passed away soon after, leaving the crew and his sister in shambles.
7.
Laurie Grimes. Although she was one of the most disliked wives and mothers in television since Skylar White from Breaking Bad, it must be said that she played a major role in the series even after her death, as her death weighed heavily on Rick and Carl. If you read the comics, you know that Laurie's death is much different, as in the comics she dies after being fatally shot along with baby Judith during the prison attack that would come in Season 4 of the TV series. Now in the TV series, however, Judith's birth is what sealed Laurie's fate, as the emergency amateur C-section caused Laurie to bleed too much to be saved. But the biggest shock came after her death at the hands of Carl and his gun, when he had to shoot her in the head to prevent her from becoming a walker. A boy should never have to kill his own mother, much less volunteer to do it. Her death was such a blow that she remained stuck inside Rick's head for several episodes afterwards. It should be noted that we still don't have a clear answer as to who the father of Judith is. Could be Rick's kid or could be Shane's.
6.
Shane Walsh. Now, if you're a fan of the comic, you knew that Shane wasn't going to last long in the zombie apocalypse. Not many people watching the first season of The Walking Dead knew about the comic it was based on, but it came as somewhat of a shock to comic readers that Shane made it past the first season. By the end of Season 1, as Shane was really starting to show villainous tendencies, it became abundantly clear that he would be the show's main antagonist through Season 2. Well, in the penultimate episode of Season 2, things came to a head as Rick and Shane finally had a standoff, with Shane being the only one of the two to hold a loaded weapon. Luckily for Rick, he was quick enough to make the first move as he plunged a knife into Shane's chest, ending their feud. Well, that is until Shane came back from the dead for one last chance at killing his former best friend. He wasn't quick enough, though, as Rick's son Carl fired the final shot at Shane, putting him down once and for all.
5.
Merle Dixon. Throughout the majority of Seasons 1 and 2, tons of people asked the question, where's Merle? The last we saw, his severed hand was sitting on a rooftop after Merle sawed it off to escape some handcuffs. After being left for dead on that rooftop in Atlanta, the eldest Dixon brother turned up as the governor's right-hand man in Woodbury. After escaping a fight to the death with his brother Daryl, Merle would later die at both of their hands. After realizing that the only way to keep his brother safe was to kill the governor, Merle went on what would become a suicide mission, leading a ton of zombies to the group's meetup location, driving a car while blasting the Motorhead song Fast and Loose. With the Woodbury soldiers distracted by the undead, Merle began picking off the soldiers with an assault rifle. Unfortunately for him, he was caught by the governor, who proceeded to break Merle's bayonet arm and bite the fingers off of his other hand before shooting him in the chest, killing him. It wasn't until later that his brother Daryl found him zombified. A distraught Daryl is then given the task of putting him down for good.
4,
Hershel Greene. So, in all honesty, Hershel went from being a somewhat interesting farm owner to truly being one of the show's best characters. Though he started out as a combatant against Rick's ways of the world, he soon becomes Rick's right-hand man and voice of reason, and he would have been a welcome presence for years to come. When the mid-season finale of Season 4 arrived, everyone hoped that he and Michonne would make it out alive after being captured by the governor. When the governor brought them to the prison as his hostages, everyone hoped that either Rick's group would be fast enough to put bullets in the governor and his militia to save them, or that Rick's speech would somehow get through to the governor. But while Michonne was able to escape, the worst-case scenario happened for Hershel as the governor decapitated him with Michonne's sword in front of everyone.
3,
Nicholas. It's fairly safe to say that a lot of people hated Nicholas during his first 2 episodes, as he was the cause of Noah's gruesome death. But by the time Season 6 came around, Nicholas was a shell of his former egotistical self. Thanks to the episode Thank You, Nicholas will forever be remembered as the guy who saved Glenn from certain death as he and Glenn found themselves trapped on top of a dumpster surrounded by walkers. Realizing there was no way out of the situation, he mumbled thank you to Glenn before shooting himself in the head. He fell to the ground and the walkers feasted on him, and with the walkers distracted by their latest meal, Glenn was able to scoot under the dumpster to safety. Maybe Glenn should have said thank you in return after the swarm of walkers dispersed, leaving little remains of Nicholas's body.
2,
Beth Greene. So, in what is argued to have been a bit of a rehash of the Search for Sophia storyline from Season 2, Beth had a Late Days storyline in which she went missing for several episodes, and Daryl and Carol spent a lot of time looking for her. The difference here, however, is that Beth wasn't a zombie. In fact, she was alive and well in a hospital run by Dawn, a cop without a real clue about how to handle the new post-apocalypse world. Late into Season 5, Beth and Dawn's conflict comes to a head as a trade is negotiated between the hospital survivors and Rick's group, in which they agree to exchange another hospital survivor, Noah, for Beth. Now, once the trade was made, Beth takes the opportunity to stab Dawn with a pair of scissors. In reaction to this, Dawn accidentally shoots Beth in the head, killing her instantly. Rick's group quickly retaliates and returns the favor by shooting Dawn.
1,
Noah. When Noah made the switch from the hospital to Rick's group, the show made it clear that Noah was very bright and had a keen interest in engineering, making it seem as though the group may have some hope when establishing their next base camp. It's even brought up as Noah requests to be the apprentice of Reg Monroe to help keep the walls of Alexandria up and stable. But knowledge was not power for Noah, as he became yet another victim of Nicholas's cowardly negligence, and he was torn apart by a group of walkers after getting trapped inside of a revolving door. This death was among the most gruesome ever shown on screen.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.